Honestly, Ragnar was pretty fun. It felt like one of those shows like you could just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show in a go with the flow kind of way, because the story necessarily is that deep. But the thing is with this show, what it excels in is the characters as well as the fights itself. But if anything, let me first get into the story quickly before I get to my likes and dislikes with the show. But Ragnar starts out with a man by the name of Ragnar, right? And he's basically looked upon as a loser between everyone else because he's so weak when it comes to fighting. And the beast that they're fighting in this medieval-ish time is quote-unquote dragons.
What is that? What the fuck is that?
Not dragon stuff. But Ragnar's also not alone. He's also accompanied by a little girl that's 12 years old by the name of Leo, right? And they basically both come together because Leo actually is a prodigy when it comes to slaying regular dragons. So much so that she's actually #1 in the whole guild that's basically slaying dragons out there. And also Ragnar looks at her as like a hero, or as his hero in a way. And that could also be looked at as like a bad thing or a good thing. But in this case, it's a good thing. Because, you know, it is a little bit wild to say that you look up to a 12-year-old, but she's the strongest out of anyone that's in that surrounding area or this country for now. But the thing is, something in the back burner that keeps happening to Ragnar is they keeps getting visions of not only a silver-haired man, but also the vision that his best friend or his hero Leo is going to die. A few days happen to pass, and basically we get to the point where like the event is going to happen, right? But the thing is, he sort of gets flung out by the person that's basically going to kill Leo. He gets into a river, and as he's drowning, the twist basically becomes that the person that keeps giving him the visions and the silver-haired man is basically Ragnar himself. Because not only is he going to see him, he also gives him all of his power to his past self so he can make a difference and a change in the world. Because he does accomplish his goals in the future, but the issue is he's by himself. He doesn't have anyone else to like really share the glory with, showing as well as his old self really saying that, hey, my power is necessarily useless because like I didn't have anyone to protect, or I couldn't protect anyone at all, so I want to change that. Alright, but that's enough for the story. Let me get into why I really do enjoy Ragnar Crimson.
Also, maybe some spoilers here and there.
One of the things I have to give props to this anime is just how loose it is, right? And it could be a good and a bad thing when it comes to anime, of one being way too loose in the terms of like how the ruling is and how necessarily the anime goes, and sometimes it can maybe feel like there's not enough stakes, or whatever the case may be. But the way this anime is loose is in two separate occasions and ways, right? And they're both hilarious, at least to me personally. One, the quote-unquote dragons in this show, right? Now the dragons that they do fight in this show, like, okay, so you do necessarily have the dragons that are in the show, but then you get to the superior dragons, and they're basically like fucking Draculas at this point. That's all they are. They're all just like fucking vampires, realistically, that they can be substituted as, except for when they do transform, I guess, into their dragon-like state. But I still really do like it, right? Because it still makes it loose enough so where like you have a lot of wiggle room to just do whatever the fuck you want for some of these dragons that you do have in the show, whether it be completely lightning abilities, time manipulation, tornado abilities, and stuff like that. Then there's the other thing that is taken extremely loosely. It's just the world itself, right? Now, at first, when you look at the show, you would automatically assume or think like, hey, this is like a medieval type of world. You got dragons, you got people in silverware, you got people with swords, silver swords, or the case may be. Okay, understandable. And then you get a few episodes in, and then there's a mage called Crimson, and at that point, once we meet Crimson and the stuff that she basically pulls off, we just see a whole load of shit that's like, okay, wait, hold on, this isn't in this fucking world. Like, for example, where you see she actually pulls out a fucking Glock, a fucking rocket launcher, a whip, a car, a camera, like, what? And every single time I see some crazy shit, my eyes just widen every single time. And necessarily ends up being funny to me, and also a good thing, because the show itself, like, at least I feel like you're not supposed to take the show that seriously, right? So when you do see things like this, it just becomes hilarious when it does pop up. Oh yeah, one more thing, I love the fucking dialogue in this show. I love when a show necessarily, sometimes here and there, it will have like modern-esque dialogue, and sometimes it could just be like crude or just slang here and there.
You're a real asshole!
People tell me that a lot. I would say that it's one of my strong points. Knowing I'm an asshole and me truly putting you through hell are two entirely different things. So stop being so sensitive and whiny.
But wanted to move on to the characters, right? I should start off with the main character, Ragnar. I like Ragnar for a few reasons, but I would have to say I love him a lot for his simple but noble goal of one, wanting to change the future, as well as wanting the ability to actually save people, or save the people that have been around him, that have fought with him all the way up until this point. Also feel like Ragnar is definitely one of those characters. He's like a rage character, at least in my book, right? And he has a lot of ambition, and that ambition basically gets him to a lot of places and really helps him break limits and go like way past where his limitations really should be. but it also skews him at the same time. It really fucks him over in certain situations where he thinks he can do something, but necessarily he can't do anything at all, making it inherently a double-edged sword and blinding him into the real facts of the situation or what he should be doing. Then there's Crimson. Crimson is evil as shit, but a good guy in a way. Well, Crimson works with Ragna to basically eradicate the dragons, and that's basically as far as like the good guy aspect really goes, right? Because Crimson necessarily will do anything to necessarily eradicate the dragons or make her plans go in the way that she wants it to specifically go, and if she has to adapt and cut off the fat, she does zero issue doing it with no hesitation, which could lead to a lot of situations where she's necessarily hurting innocents or like hurting anyone that basically gets in her way. And realistically, it's probably not a good guy in the first place. Honestly, probably just like an anti-hero or like chaotic fucking good or some shit, I don't know. But I will admit there's this little small part of me that gives her the kudos to actually be able to just do anything for the plan to go through, because you literally have to eradicate these dragons or more innocent people will literally die from here on out. Then there's also the two major villains I have to talk about when it comes to the show, right? As one is Otamiya and Wotakamui? Nah, I'm just gonna call him Starting off with Otamiya, it was just one of those characters where you're so happy that they get their just desserts because they make your fucking blood boil with their actions, right? And this character per se did a whole lot of actions in the show, and they would always disguise it in the disguise of like, oh, this is what God wants, or this is what God is like issuing to happen at this point in time. And what made it honestly worse is like the fact that she acted like, or she thought in her mind, oh my goodness gracious, I'm giving them an easy way out, this is the easy way they can have out. And technically speaking, if you, I guess if you're insta killing them, sure, but still just killing millions of people in a village just because like you think this is the right occurrence is insanity. And then there's Kamui. I just love them from start to finish, right? With just his design being like basically peak fiction with his design.
He got that shit on though.
All the way up into his powers, all the way up into his origin story as well. With his origin with him as well as Otamiya meeting at an earlier stage in life, and really him just getting saved by her and being indebted to her, so that's why he always wants to help her, as well as has the idealism of for Otamiya to have her own line of thinking, for her to necessarily stop having the belief basically in God and then basically have her own belief system itself. Because from the outside looking in, from Kamui's eyes, it looked like she was suffering, so without like God or the case may be, her suffering basically go away. Then there also are a lot of other characters that weren't in the show per se, but I did like them. But the thing is that I did not like is that some of these characters you learn more about them when they were about to die, and it made it really obvious. So that was like a little bit of a minus for me, where like it would give them a complete whole origin, and then in the next few minutes, oh, they're fucking dead as hell. And the show made it extremely apparent that a lot of people in the show were gonna kick the bucket basically. And I really wanted like some of them to live, because some of them were like really cool, but I had a complete understanding. I'm like, okay, a lot of these people aren't gonna live, so it's fine, it's okay. At least I had their cool moments here and there. And then also, I love the power difference between the struggle of the dragons as well as the humans, because the dragons are like on a completely different level. Like the humans can't even like get anywhere close to these superior dragons level. So it's really cool to see necessarily the power difference and how it's basically handled throughout the whole season, and how they're basically going to defeat these dragons. Other than that, I had a really good time. I had a really fun time watching Ragnar Crimson. I definitely highly suggest it for anyone out there watching. But other than that, like, comment, subscribe. I see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.